He's in charge. Okay. You need a light on this? I don't know where it is. Can you see this?
You don't know where one is.
Switch for this.
Back up.
Oh, there it is. Sorry. Okay. I thought it was on the floor. Jayo Raja Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballava Girivadhari Gopi Jana Ballava Girivadhari Yasodanandana Vajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. So we are continuing with the second canto, 10th chapter. We're on text 45. And it's a long purport. But we'll get through it. And then I was going to see. So the text, hopefully it says, Nasya Karmani Janmadao Nasya Karmani Janmadao Parashanu Vidhyate Kritavan Pratisedartam Kritava Pratisedhartam Mayaya Ropitam Hitat Mayaya Ropitam Hitat Nasya Karmani Janmadao Parashanu Vidhyate Kritava Pratised Kritavas Pratisedhartam Mayaya Ropitam Hitat Nasya Karmani Janmadao Parashanu Vidhyate Kritava Pratisedhartam Mayaya Ropitam Hitat. Someone else?
Nasya karmani janmado Parasyanu vidiyate Vatritva pratisedatam Mayaya ropitam hitat Nasya karmani janmado Parasyanu vidiyate Vatritva pratisedatam Mayaya ropitam hitat
Nasya karmani jammado
Nasya Karmani Janmadao
Parasachayunu vidyate
Parashanu Vidhyate
Kartava pratisedatam
Kritava Pratisedhartam
Mayayo yarupitam hitat
Mayaya Ropitam Hitat.
Nasya karmani janmado
Nasya Karmani Janmadao
Parasyanu vidiyate
Kartava pratisedatam
Mayaya ropitam hitat
Mayaya ropitam hitat
Nasya karmani janmado Parasyanu vidiyate
Parashanu Vidhyate
Vatritva pratisedatam
Kartava pratisedatam
Mayaya ropitam hitat
Mayaya ropitam hitat.
So, word for word, na, never. Asya, of the creation. Karmani, in the matter of. Janma adao, creation and destruction. Parasha, of the supreme. Anuvidhyate, it is so described. Kartritva, engineering. Pratisedha, artam, counteract. Mayaya, by the external energy. Aropitam, is manifested. He, for. Tat, the Creator. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the translation is, there is no direct engineering by the Lord for the creation and destruction of the material world. What is described in the Vedas about his direct interference is simply to counteract the idea that material nature is the creator. Please repeat. There is no direct engineering
There is no direct engineering
by the Lord
by the Lord
for the creation and destruction of the material world.
by the creation and destruction of the material world.
What is described
What is described
in the Vedas
in the Vedas
about his direct interference
about his direct interference
is simply to counteract
is simply to counteract
the idea
the idea
that material nature
that material nature
is the creator.
is a creator.
So, the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The Vedic direction for the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world is this: Yato va imani bhutani jayanti jena jatami jivanti tat payanti abhisam visanti. I.e., or that is, everything is created by the Brahman. After creation, everything is maintained by Brahman, and after annihilation, everything is conserved in Brahman. Gross materialists, without any knowledge of Brahman, Paramatma or Bhagavan, conclude material nature to be the ultimate cause of the material manifestation. And the modern scientists also share this view, that the material nature is the ultimate cause of all the manifestations of the material world. This view is refuted by all Vedic literature. The Vedanta philosophy mentions that Brahman is the fountainhead of all creation, maintenance, and destruction. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the natural commentation on the Vedanta Sutra says, Janma dasha yataho anvayad iteras chartusu abhigya swarat, etc. So I was going to read the whole purport, but at this point right here, I'm going to stop here, and if I don't get through, then my report can finish. So, right here it says that the material scientists, they feel that everything is just material nature, and somehow or other, material nature is either they have various theories. One is called primordial soup. It's actually, do you have it as the soup for the day at the restaurant? Primordial soup?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, primordial soup, and nobody knows where it came from or who's cooking it or what the ingredients are, but apparently from the primordial soup, we've gotten this very complex DNA and this very complex creation of planets floating on their orbits and so on and so forth, all these various species and beautiful birds and plants and flowers bearing fruits, and in each fruit there's a seed, in each seed there's a tree, and then that produces more fruits, and that produces more seeds, and that produces more trees, and so therefore in one seed you have a whole forest. And all this is just happening from some bubbling up primordial soup, and nobody knows where it came from. Or we have there's a big chunk of material nature, energy. They don't even know what it is. And then for some reason, it explodes. And after the explosion, all this very complex, very mechanized, efficient, universal creation is the result. That's like the example the devotees always use about, the Big Bang construction company. We have a new way of doing things here, and we'll show you our pamphlet. You can have a ranch house, you can have a split level, you can have, sort of a Victorian-looking house, or California kind of new architecture. You just pick and choose, and then we'll put all the materials in the field, and then we take some dynamite and we explode it, and one of those houses will appear eventually. So who's going to buy into that? Really? Seriously? You're going to buy into that? This is their... And so Prabhupada also, and I'm going somewhere with this, this is why... Prabhupada was very proud that Bhakti Swarup Damodar Prabhu, who was I don't know if he was a biological chemist or it was something to do with chemistry, he was a PhD, and he was at a big conference, I believe it was in California. And there was a guest speaker who had won a Nobel Prize in chemical engineering or whatever. And so Sri Damodar got up to the microphone and asked him, dear Professor so-and-so, if I can provide you with all of the chemicals that we know constitutes our bodies, can you produce a conscious living animate entity from that? If you have all the amino acids and the different, the carbon and the oxygen or whatever else is required to create that's within our bodies, can you create an animate being? And he said, well, at this time, we don't think that would be possible. And Prabhupada loved to tell this story. So what they're saying is that life, therefore Prabhupada had him write the book, Life Comes from Life. They say that life comes from matter. That's like saying that at some point, this chair will develop consciousness. It's ridiculous. But we have a science. And we have historical proof of what I'm about to say. That a marble statue like that, which they would call an idol, that marble statue, if you perform the proper process of sadhana bhakti, by hearing and chanting and worshipping, cleansing the heart of all fruitive desires, or desires for jnana, knowledge, or desires for, nadanam najanam the sundarim va kamaya isha kamaye haituki, nadanam nasundaram, no beautiful women, no followers, no wealth. All I want is your devotional service, birth after birth. That's Lord Chaitanya's view. No, I cleanse my heart. I want your devotional service. It's higher than, I experience more pleasure than from having followers, from having great wealth, from having association with beautiful members of the opposite sex. So it must be really wonderful. So there's a story, and it's not just a story. This isn't a myth. It's not a fable. It's not an allegory or an analogy. It's an actual historical story that happened in India. There were two Brahmins, an elderly Brahmin and a young Brahmin. The young Brahmin did not have such good karma, so that he was poor, and he didn't come from an aristocracy. He didn't have a very good education, but he was a very sincere, humble servant, and this old elderly Brahmin was aristocratic. He had wealth. He came from good education. He had a large family, and but he was also very devoted, very pure. And in the purports, towards the end of the story, Prabhupada specifically says that these two Brahmins are Nitya Siddhas. So what happens is, the elderly Brahmin wants to go, he's in South India, and he wants to go on a pilgrimage. And his son won't take him. His own children won't take him. None of his other friends or relatives will take him. They're too busy in their wealth and so on. And this young, poor Brahmin says, I'll do it, because he wants to serve. He wants to serve a Vaishnava. He wants to serve He knows that real bhakti, real pleasure comes from serving the servants of Krishna. So they go to Goya, Prayag, a few other places, and then they go to Vrindavan. They go to all the 12 forests in Vrindavan. And there's 5 on the eastern side and 7 on the western side. And the Tala, or Talavana, is on the western side. And that's where Vrindavan is also. They also go to Govardhan Hill. So they go to all these temples and all these places. And this younger Brahmin is serving him so nicely. He sees to his every need. And they finally get to where at present day is the Govinda temple. At that point in time, there was a Gopal temple. And while sitting in front of the deity, the elderly Brahmin is just so overwhelmed by the beauty of the deities and this whole experience of going to all these holy places and how nicely this young Brahmin is serving him. And he's so, it touches his heart how much he's seeing to his needs. And he wants to do something for him. And he says, when we get back, I want to reciprocate. Because he didn't want to take any money from me. I want to give you my daughter in charity. And he said, no, you can't do that. Even though we're from the same caste, we're both Brahmins, I'm of a lower, I'm not aristocratic, I'm not educated, I have no money. You know, your relatives, your children, your wives, your friends, they'll all shun you for this. This is not heard of. You can't do that. I will not accept it. He says, if I want to give my daughter in charity, who's going to stop me? And he goes, your family. And they have this debate back and forth. And he says, well, if you insist, the younger Brahmin that is, if you insist on this, if you're making this statement, and what he's really concerned about is that the elderly Brahmin is making this statement in front of a deity at this point. And he's giving his word. And he knows that if he doesn't fulfill this, then this will be a great, a sinful reaction. He'll get a very serious reaction for this, for making such vow and statement like that. So he says, if that's what I don't think this is the right thing to do. I don't want this to happen. I'm not doing this because I need money from you. I'm doing this out of service. And so he says, I know that, and that's why I think you're qualified to marry my daughter. So he says, well then, I want you to make this vow. I want you to say this in front of Gopalji. And I'm asking, dear Gopal, will you please be the witness? Will you please witness this promise of the elderly Brahmin that I'm serving, that he is giving his daughter in charity? Because if he breaks this vow, and I think he'll be under a great deal of pressure to not fulfill it, that that you will be the witness and you can back up this statement. And actually, Gopal agrees. Gopal speaks to them. And so they finally, and it's a great distance. They had traveled. So they get back to their village, and after some time, they both go to their parts of the village. And after a while, the younger Brahmin's not hearing anything from the elderly Brahmin. And the elderly Brahmin's in a lot of anxiety because he knows now the younger Brahmin was right. And he's really concerned how his family's going to respond. But then one day he decides, he calls them all together, and he says, while on pilgrimage, I promised, I gave our daughter to him as reciprocation for his service. And everybody just went, what? Are you crazy? You can't do that. We'll be the laughing stock. Everyone will be just, we'll be finished. We'll be ruined. He's not qualified. Listen, how many people saw this happen? And he said, well, Gopal saw it. Now I'm going to take a little artistic license here, okay? So so the son, the oldest son, he's an atheist, and he considers the deities idols, much like the materialist that we're talking about in the purport. So he says, well, who's Gopal? Is he a priest there, or is he the treasurer there, or who is Gopal? No, Gopal's the deity. He goes, you mean the marble statue is the witness? Yes, and he'll verify this. Oh, I'm sorry. I know, Peter. You understand? You think? I'm sorry. I thought we had something to worry about. Gopal. Okay, all right, yeah, all right. Okay, so listen, this is what we do. You tell if he comes back. I'm sorry, I can't. I was so worried that we were going to have to actually give our daughter, my sister, away. His witness is a marble statue. So he says, when he comes, you just say you don't remember, and I'll deal with the rest. So the younger Brahmin comes the next day, and just coincidentally, and says, so I haven't heard from you, I'm wondering what's happening. And the older Brahmin says, I don't think he says anything at that point, if I remember correctly. But the son says, you rascal! How dare you think that this is nonsense. My father never would have agreed to this. And then so the younger Brahmin is very upset. So the next day they kick him out, and then he comes back with the rest of the village, and they actually meet in a special meeting place, and the whole village wants to hear this story. So the younger Brahmin explains, I was serving this elderly Brahmin, and I was doing it out of service to a senior Vaishnava, and I knew it wasn't a good idea, but he promised that he wanted to give his daughter in charity to me. And I knew I'm not qualified, but he insisted. And then we made a vow in front of the Gopal deity. And the Gopal deity agreed to be the witness to this vow. And this is a very standard thing to do in India. That you make a promise, like Prabhu used to make us take vows in front of the deities, in front of the fire, in front of the guru, in front of the Brahmins. That I will not break these regulatory principles. I will chant 16 rounds every day. And so the son says, this rascal fed a drug, and I can't remember the name of it. He intoxicated my father, and he stole all of his money. And then after he stole all the money, he tricked him into promising something that he never would have tricked under the influence of this drug that he gave him. And a lot of the people in the town, they thought, well, that sounds reasonable. But they didn't know what to do. And the younger, and they asked the older Brahmin says, I can't really remember, but if Gopal would be the witness, then we have to agree to it. This is what the older Brahmin says, and the younger Brahmin says, yes. If Gopal is the witness, he'll verify this, and so then the son says, okay, I'll agree to that. Yeah. You go and get Gopal and bring him here. All of his friends they're all like laughing in the background. He's gonna get the Gopal. I got this. Don't worry about it. And some of the people saying, well, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can do whatever he likes. And the old man is thinking, if it's Krishna's will, it will happen. He wants this man, this younger Brahmin, to have his daughter. He doesn't want to break his vow. But one thing I left out was very important. The wife and the other members of the family said, if you do this, we will all take poison and commit suicide. And and the younger Brahmana knows that. He says, he tells the rest of the people, he's just saying that he doesn't remember because he knows that his family will commit suicide. And so he's under a lot of pressure here. So I will go to Gopal and ask him to come and bear witness to this. And the villagers say, well, if Gopal will come and bear witness to this, then we have to accept. And the son said, sure, no, definitely, we all accept that, yes. Get this marble statue up here. Okay, all right, see you later. So he goes back to Gopal in Vrindavan, and he explains the whole story. And Gopal says, yes, I remember, I recall this. So you just go back to your village, and when the time is right, I will appear. And he said, no, that's not going to work. No forearm form of Vishnu appearing. No, it has to be you. You have to come. So Gopal says to him, Gopal speaking to him, he says, well, I've never heard of a marble deity walking. And so then the younger Brahmana says, but I've never heard of one's talking. I think if you can talk, you can certainly walk. And so the Gopal deity says, all right, I'll do that. But here's the conditions. That you can never turn around and look to see if I'm following you. You will know that I'm following you because you hear my ankle bells. Do we have ankle bells on? Okay, just making sure. But you have to provide me with 2 kilos of first-class rice every day. Now I'm thinking all this time, like, where's he going to definitely get 2 kilos of rice and be able to feed and cook it for him, and then not look at him and all that? Immediately I'm starting calculating how do you know you're going to stop near a shop, things like that. So, but somehow or other, Krishna provided, and every day he cooked 2 kilos of rice. So it took 100 days. That's how far away. 100 days. So they get to the boundary of the village, and now the younger Brahman's thinking, I'm at my home village. But what if I go there, and then it turns out he's not really behind me? But if I turn around now to look, this is good as having him at my house. It's here in the village. So he turns around, and there's Gopal standing.
Just stayed there, didn't
He just said that. Now I'll stay here. I will stay here. You go get the village. You bring the family, and I will bear witness. So they come. And everyone gathers round. And the old man immediately pays dandavats. He feels, I am saved. This is a miracle. Because how could he even, in those days, how could he have transported this heavy, I don't know how big it was, but like a deity like that, how could he, even if it was a Gopal deity this size, how could he transport it that far? But the best part is, when the villagers ask, is this true what this young man is saying? That the elderly Brahmin promised his daughter in charity? He said yes. He tells them the whole story. The Gopal deity talks to the whole village.
I wish I was there.
Hey, Krishna! Hey, oh! So, and the son is like, flabbergasted. So, what I'm trying to say here, and by the way, this is a story that was relayed by Lord Nityananda to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when they were on pilgrimage, and they had gone to, at that time it was in Vijayanagara. Since then that deity has been moved a few times, and for various reasons. And Prabhupada makes the point that if this had just been some other marital karmakanda arrangement, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda wouldn't be interested in talking about it. This is a transcendental pastime. And to show that actually, if one is really devoted and cleanses the heart, and the point is, this younger Brahmin, he did not expect any payment for this service. He simply wanted to be a servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. He had no karma kanda, no jnana kanda. He did not want a beautiful wife. He did not want wealth. What he wanted was pure devotion. You can imagine what can happen if we can develop pure devotion. And this is a science, that we can develop pure devotion and we can bring life to what appears to be dead matter. We can make that marble statue talk and dance. And I know for a fact, and I'm sure many of the other pujaris will back this up, when I used to dress Gornitai in Atlanta, outfits would fit. And then sometimes, depending on the cook, it was too big.
Yes.
Or I couldn't get the same outfit, and they weren't being washed or put in a dryer or anything. It was too small. In other words, the deities were reciprocating with the prasadam, and they were gaining weight, losing weight. That's how I knew whether or not the cooks were doing nicely. Or the prayers. It may be the prasadam was nice, but the person offering wasn't offering properly. This is a science. Just like material scientists perform their experiments to try to prove how they are going to be able to create life, or where life is coming from. Well, we can prove that behind this material energy, Krishna, this is all Krishna's energy, this external energy. And that everything that we use in his service becomes transcendentalized. It becomes Krishnaized. So Krishna, that is his energy, and that is done in a proper way, from generation to generation. These families, they know how the deities are to be made, and with the proper prayers and mantras, the deities were installed, and the deities are being served. And each one of us, he will reciprocate with each one of us based on our desires. So, in this, this is the nature of what we're practicing here. That's why we're sitting down every day studying the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I know I didn't finish the purport, but it would seem like the right moment to tell that story, because it was saying that the material scientists are saying that, life is coming from material nature, but they can't prove it. Well, we can prove that you can make life in material nature by prayers, by devotion, by offering foodstuffs to the Lord, making beautiful flower garlands, dressing them nicely, bathing them, and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Anyone have any questions or comments?
I know one thing I've noticed about the deities, I've only seen a few temples, is one thing I realized right away is they have different personalities. I mean, you can really, there's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
They have a different mood, all I can say is a personality.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just stones.
And then I think she had first.
This deity you talked about is called Sachi Gopal.
Sakshi, Sakshi Gopal.
Sachi means witness, I cannot remember, maybe Kemali can remember this. I think we went on a safari with Guru Maharaj years ago. Did we visit that temple? Yeah? And it's a big marble, big black deity, isn't it? He was bigger, he was not small. But I remember seeing him because he was little.
I think there's probably pictures of him in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's possible. But yeah, he's been moved. At one point, and it had to do with politics with the kings and stuff, but at one point, I can't remember if he was in the Jagannath temple, Jagannath Puri, but then there was some quarrel between Lord Jagannath and Sakshi Gopal. And it's called some kind of lover's quarrel. But then there was another time when he was in one temple, And the prince, or the queen, she was very devoted, and she had this beautiful pearl, and she wanted to put it in Sakshi Gopal's nose. And she just really had this strong desire to do this. And but she didn't know. She didn't want to, drill a hole in his nose. So that night she had a dream, and Sakshi Gopal came to her and said, "When I was young, my mother made a hole in my nose for a pearl, and if you come, you can put that pearl in my nose." And she couldn't see it from where she was. And lo and behold, she goes there, and she tells the Pujari, the king, because she's the queen, the king tells the Pujaris what had happened. They went over and they saw the hole in the nose, and they put the pearl in the nose. Yes?
Thank you for the kind of like the drama that you did. Because I feel like dramas are so convincing. You feel like the bear. And you have that propensity. He's done that in front of Prabhupada, he's acted. So, and also Mataji has that interest. He's done it before and organized plays.
Oh, really?
So I think we have now a crew
Yeah.
that we could get
That we could do that play right there.
Totally.
It's just I'm old now. I could be the old man. I did that play once though. I did that play with. Listen to this. I did it with Bhakti Swarup Damodar and Balavanta, and I was the son. And but Bhakti Swarup Damodar played the young Brahmin, and he was so good that I'm playing the atheist, right? And he said, "No, he said, I'm not trying to cheat you. Your father made this promise." And he was so humble and sweet. I was about to say, "Oh, okay, here, I believe you." That actually happened. So, yeah, it would be, I was actually thinking about, I was trying to think who could be what.
And Gopi used to act in plays too, she just same.
We did this play when I was a girl. We grew up in Gokula in Guyana and Trinidad.
Oh, really?
So we would do it at home programs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and my wife, of course, she's too old now, but she, because of her dance experience, she played, in Toronto, she played Gopal. So yeah, no, it can definitely be done. I'm sure there's a script. I just received a different Veda base from Jayadurta Maharaj, and it has a whole slew of plays, ISKCON plays on it. And maybe there'll be a good Sakshi Gopal.
Yeah. Do you know Madan Mohan Mohini? Madan Mohan Mohini?
Sounds familiar.
Prabhupada village. She's there now. Shivananda was.
Oh, I know her, yes.
Yeah, well, she has all the classic old plays from the old
sure.
days.
She was in the ashram with my son in Lake Huntington for a little while.
Yes.
Yeah, I know her very well.
She, if you get in touch with her, she has all the plays. But it was kind of like the way they written it back then. My children in Prabhupada village, she would try to do dramas with them. But they thought it was like the way it was written, it was a little corny, so they were trying to rewrite it a little bit, because in the old days, she didn't like it, they were trying to change the words a little bit.
Well, the thing is that the actual story doesn't have what I did there, where, who is Gopal? Is he the head priest? Is he the treasurer? And then he realizes it's the deity, and then I think that's kind of a, he knows it's the deity, but I think it's so effective because it states in the purport that he is an atheist. So that's what I kind of think it's effective if the son is saying, well, who is this Gopal? What do we, maybe we can panel, not that I'm going to say that, but, was he the Pujari? Was he the treasurer there? Who was he? No. The deity, Gopal. And then you mean the marble statue? Really? Oh, we had something to worry about. And I think that's really effective.
Yeah.
And I think this play, they used to do it a lot. And I actually acted in one of them in Malaysia when I was a monkey. So that in those days, this play was mostly
Yeah.
And I have a picture of it. I think it was on stage with a lot of people. I was the mother of the girl who's
But to me, I don't know, maybe we use the children here to do it? What?
Can I suggest something?
Yes.
All
Let me
our
turn this off.
Sorry.
That's right, no.
You know,